There is a statue that has been smashed, buried, sold, stolen, and carried across Europe by a man who believed it proved something about his own racial superiority. And he was wrong about every single thing he thought it meant. The Discobolus, the disc thrower, is one of the most recognized figures in the history of Western art. You know the pose, even if you do not know the name. An athlete frozen at the peak of his backswing, body coiled, disc in hand, muscles locked in the instant before release. It is the image of perfection in motion, a body doing exactly what a body was built to do. The original was cast in bronze around 450 BC by an Athenian sculptor named Myron, and the original is gone, completely. Not a fragment survives. What the entire world knows as the Discobolus, what fills museum rooms in Rome and London and Copenhagen, are Roman marble copies, made 500 years after Myron died. Copies of copies, echoes of a thing we will never see. And yet those copies have survived things that should have destroyed them many times over. I want to start with what the original actually was, because what Myron made was not simply a beautiful athletic figure, it was a philosophical argument carved in bronze. The Greeks had a concept called Kairos, the perfect moment, the instant in time when everything aligns, when action and potential and consequence exist simultaneously. Myron chose the precise fraction of a second before the disc leaves the hand. Not the throw itself, not the preparation, the moment between, the body at maximum tension, the outcome still undecided. That is what he froze, not an athlete. A question. If this is the kind of history that stops you, subscribe to Carrara. There is always more beneath the surface. The marble copies of the Discobolus that exist today did not simply age gracefully in museum rooms. They were buried, broken, disputed, legally stolen, and placed at the center of one of the most grotesque misreadings of a work of art in modern history. The copy now in Rome, the Discobolus Lancelotti, named for the family that owned it, was unearthed in fragments on the Esquiline Hill in Rome in the early 18th century. Fragments, pieces of a body that had been underground for centuries, broken by the weight of time and the city built above it. It was reassembled and reassembled incorrectly. The head was placed facing forward, looking out toward the viewer, which destroyed the entire logic of Myron's composition. The figure stood like that for over 100 years before scholars realized the error. The head belongs turned inward, following the direction of the throw, looking at the disc. That correction alone changed what the statue meant. A figure looking out is performing for an audience. A figure looking inward is concentrating. Myron made a man lost in his own moment of effort. The restorers had accidentally made a man aware of being watched. That was the first near destruction, not physical, but interpretive. The meaning of the sculpture had been broken and rebuilt wrong, and no one noticed for a century. In 1938, Adolf Hitler purchased the Discobolus Lancelotti from the Lancelotti family for 5 million lire. The Italian government had initially blocked the sale. Mussolini overruled the block personally as a gesture of alliance. Hitler wanted the sculpture because he believed it proved something. The National Socialist ideology had constructed an entire aesthetic theory around the idea of the classical Greek body as the original expression of Aryan racial superiority. The Discobolus, perfect, athletic, controlled, white, was exactly what Nazi propaganda needed. It was installed in the Munich Glyptothek, displayed as physical evidence of a racial lineage that ran from ancient Greece to modern Germany. The figure was exhibited alongside a quote from Hitler himself: "A racially pure body is the most beautiful thing in the world." there is something almost unbearable in the irony. Myron made a figure that was almost certainly modeled on a specific athlete. Greek athletic competition was open to all free Greek citizens regardless of origin. The ideal of the Greek gymnasium was about individual human achievement and civic participation, not racial hierarchy. The sculpture Hitler used as a symbol of racial purity was made by a culture that would have found the concept entirely foreign. He had purchased a statement about human potential and turned it into a statement about human sorting. The Discobolus stayed in Munich through the war. It survived the bombing. It was recovered by Italian authorities in 1948 and returned to Rome, where it remains today. There are at least 18 known Roman copies of the Discobolus, 18 different workshops, 18 different craftsmen, all attempting to translate the same bronze original into marble, a material that behaves completely differently, that cannot hold the same poses, that requires internal supports and bracing that bronze never needed. Every copy is slightly wrong, not through incompetence, but through the fundamental impossibility of the task. Marble is heavy and brittle. The Discobolus's pose, weight entirely on one foot, body twisted at the waist, one arm extended with a heavy disc, is structurally unstable in stone. The Roman copyists had to add a tree stump support at the standing leg, a strut between the disc hand and the thigh, subtle changes in the angle of the torso to shift the center of gravity. The figure you see in the museum is a compromise, a translation, a best attempt at capturing a moment of weightless bronze tension in a material that is pulling toward the floor. And yet, the compromise works. The translation succeeds enough that across 2,000 years and 18 imperfect copies, Myron's original argument, the frozen instant, the body at maximum potential, still arrives. That is what survival means for a work of art. Not that the original persists, but that the idea inside it refuses to die, even as every physical version of it is buried, broken, misread, stolen, and returned. Subscribe to Carrara if you want to keep following stories like this one, stories where the art outlasts everything that tries to stop it. Here is what I keep thinking about when I stand in front of the Discobolus. The figure is not doing anything heroic. He is not fighting. He is not dying for a cause. He is not being visited by a god, or ascending to heaven, or performing a miracle. He is throwing a disc. He is an athlete at a competition, doing a thing that athletes did. And Myron decided that this ordinary human act of physical effort was worth the full intensity of artistic attention. Worth freezing in the most permanent material available. Worth making perfect. That decision contains an entire argument about what matters. Not the exceptional, not the divine. The human body in the act of being exactly what it is capable of being. That is the thing worth preserving. And then the Romans copied it because they agreed. And then the copies were buried and found and broken and incorrectly restored and sold to a man who misunderstood them so completely that he thought they proved the opposite of what they actually meant. And then they were taken back, and they still stand. The original bronze that Myron made is gone forever. No fragment survives. And yet the argument he made in that bronze about the human body, about the perfect moment, about what is worth looking at carefully, has been copied, carried, broken, and reassembled across 25 centuries. It is still being looked at. It has survived everything. I do not know what to call that, except the most stubborn form of survival there is.